So, next up on my movies to talk about for 2018 is Molly's Game. And I know you're thinking, that's a 2017 film. Well, I go by the wide releases in the US for movies, and both Molly's Game and The Post had wide releases in the US in January 2018. So as far as I'm concerned, I consider both of them 2018 films. Molly's Game is based off a true story about a woman named Molly Bloom who used to be an Olympic class skier. Something terrible happens and eventually she can't ski anymore and she ends up running a high class, high stakes poker game, and it's not so legal, or technically legal, or shady. But a long time after she stops hosting this high-stakes poker game, she eventually gets arrested by the FBI, and now it could be involved, or to the FBI's concern, could be involved with Russian mafia, and now she's got to clear her name. Well, that's not all the film is about, and there are a few things that I just didn't want to mention because I want you to see this movie yourself, because I was highly entertained by this film. Now, when I saw the trailer for this film, I thought, okay, this could be good, but I was worried that it was going to be kind of like a knockoff of Miss Sloane, which Miss Sloane was also Jessica Chastain in that movie, and that surprised the hell out of me. I love that movie, and I love Molly's Game even more. There's a lot of solid things that I can say about this movie that were really great and most likely Oscar nomination worthy. Let's start off with easily the best thing about this movie, and that is the performances, because everyone was absolutely top-notch and amazing in this movie. The four standouts for me: Jessica Chastain as our main character, Molly Bloom, she's an amazing actress. She was amazing in this movie and deserves Oscar nomination, I feel. Also great in this movie was Idris Elba, Michael Cera, and Kevin Costner had a really great scene in this movie as well. For me, I feel those were the four standouts, but I don't think there was a bad performance at all in this movie. Everyone was great. Another thing I feel is top-notch about this movie, it's the dialogue, it's the script, it's the narration. I was worried that the narration would be too much because it's one of those narrations where it's a highly smart person narrating the film, explaining everything, explaining all these different facts and these situations. Once the first scene happens, I was like, okay, I get why the narration's there. I love the narration. I became hooked with it. Honestly, the first scene of the movie is probably one of the best scenes in the film. I do really like the story as well. The story really hooked me in, and I wanted to see what happened. I was fascinated by these events possibly being true story, and all the things are just ridiculously fascinating. I'm not a big poker fan, but all the poker scenes in this movie, highly addictive, highly fun, just one of those things where I was fascinated. I wanted to know more about the situation, her story. I loved almost every minute of this film. The poker scenes, how she got into the business, how she eventually started running the business, is all of the most fascinating things about the movie. The court stuff isn't all that engaging compared to the poker stuff, but I highly enjoyed those scenes still because of the performances by Idris Elba and Jessica Chastain. And ultimately the character dilemma of Jessica Chastain, and there's some really great character with her and really great moments where she is gonna plead guilty and doesn't want certain things to be made known about her clients. There's also a really brutal scene that was hard to watch, but in the best way possible, about this muscle that takes care of Jessica Chastain in one scene in her hotel. That was brutal. Now, Aaron Sorkin, he's more of a writer, and he was top-notch with this story, and there's a lot of things that he wrote that I do highly admire. This was the first time he directed, and I thought he did a spot-on job with the direction. Ultimately, the thing that falls a little flat for me with Molly's Game, and the things that I don't like as much as the story, the character, the acting, the directing, is some of the more technical aspects of the film, which unfortunately keep it from being absolutely amazing. Some of the technical aspects that I didn't like that much was some of the camera work. The camera work is passable and fine for the most part, but there's some questionable shots that made the film look a little ugly, and didn't really understand why certain scenes were shot in a certain way. And yes, that's nitpicking, because some of the things that I found ugly and unwatchable were very, very brief moments. But there were moments in there where I'm like, okay, why is the camera pointed that way? Why is it this close up to a character? And why does it look like this? And I'm just, There's a few technical aspects that took me out of the movie. And this isn't some big CGI high blockbuster film, but there is some visual effects that I found just looked really bad. And it's only one scene in particular, and it's towards the end. It's with Jessica Chastain as Molly Bloom. She's skating in a skating rink, and she's going as fast as she can. And whenever it was looking at Jessica Chastain from the front while she was skating, it looked unrealistic. It looked really weird to me. I feel that it was either a green screen effect or it was something in the visual effects department. That's the only thing in this movie that just looked bad for me. And there's also a scene towards the end with Kevin Costner and Jessica Chastain. Kevin Costner plays her father. He's also a psychiatrist. He also coached her in her skiing. And so there's a scene where basically they have a therapy session, and basically they explain all the problems that Jessica Chastain, that Molly Bloom's character has, in a very bow tie, very tied up way. And some of it is a little cheesy and far-fetched, but at the same time, I did enjoy that scene, and it did make the whole experience with Kevin Costner being in the film and his character, because his character felt all side story-ish and felt like, okay, what's the point of this big actor being in this story, and it doesn't really connect to the main problem of the movie. But eventually the psychiatrist, the therapy session that she has with him, basically ties it up and makes it easy to explain for the audience. So in some ways I don't like that scene, but in other ways I do like it because it makes it feel like Kevin Costner's character finally has a point to the movie. Now, I've probably explained this in other movie reviews, but in case you haven't seen those particular movie reviews, I have a different way of reviewing a movie now. And I have a personal score where I just look at pure entertainment, things that I highly loved, and try to keep it as subjective as possible. My personal score for this movie is a 5. However, I also have a more objective, a little bit more critical score, where I look at all the different aspects of the film and score each of those aspects, get an average score, and that's my critical score. My critical score is a little lower, so because of that, and because my movie reviews are an average of those two scores, ultimately I'm going to have to give Molly's Game 4.5 stars. Again, I highly enjoyed it, but some of the technical aspects of the film that I didn't like as much kept it from being as amazing as my personal score. So, did you see Molly's Game? What did you think about it? Go ahead and comment below. And if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews and countdowns of previous years. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was just my opinion.